And awesome. Thank you all so much for making it today. I recognize some of the names, some of the faces. It's great to see you all. Once again, we will be doing this every 2 weeks, so make sure to join us again in a couple weeks. But today we will be talking about how to create consistent practices within the context of your team, your organization, any of those challenges that you guys might be facing on a regular basis. So, what does that look like? There's a couple different ways that we work within our solution here at Zenhub to make things a little bit easier for ourselves and our colleagues. We all have biases that we bring to the table, whether it's how we break down work, how we distribute work, how we think about work. And we've done everything we possibly can to create standardization within the solution itself. And our most recent changes in that regard have been within the context of using AI. So, what does this look like? We have, when we are creating new tickets, a couple additional options that we've rolled out for a while now, but are becoming more common on a day-to-day basis. And part of that is our ability to label tickets as we're creating them. The reason why this is so important is we, as I mentioned before, each have our biases, but when we're retroactively looking at the work that our team has accomplished, the work that we've done over the course of a sprint, of an epic, etc., we want to make sure that we have an accurate view as to the type of work that we're doing. So let's say we have a couple different types of engineers. We've got DevOps engineers, and then front end, back end, the usual. And we have some additional resourcing, and we want to add some team members. If we don't have an accurate breakdown of what kind of work has been increasing over the last little bit, we're not necessarily making the best decision we possibly can. So if I go ahead and open up a create new ticket panel, click on that issue title, and then put in that title that I want to put in. In this case, user unable to save changes in settings. On the right-hand side, you can see we already have a couple of these options that have popped up. We've got back end, and in progress. Now, again, these are AI suggested labels. They are suggested. They are in no way, shape, or form necessary to use. But in this case, it seems like it's picked some good options. They're unable to save the changes in settings. That sounds to me like it is a bug. And it sounds like it's primarily backend, right? So on the front end, it's working. We can go ahead and make the necessary changes. It's just not firing. So I can go ahead and automatically take advantage of those two options. If your GitHub repositories and your list of labels is anything like ours, fairly prodigious, right? So instead of spending all that time scrolling through, maybe picking one of the top ones that you think might be able to fit in, shoehorning it in, and not necessarily having the accuracy that I'm sure you all crave, we can go ahead and immediately attach the labels that we think are the most important and the most pertinent. But from there, we get to the real meat and potatoes, AI-powered acceptance criteria. Our ability to go ahead, look at the fact that we have a little bit of a challenge, and go ahead and enter a little prompt that might be helpful. So in this case, I have pre-typed it. I didn't want you guys to watch me muddle through. And from there, I can click on add a description, paste in that description, and then click generate acceptance criteria at the bottom. And that will start to put that together. Now, of course, as with any Gen AI models, the better the prompt that you're providing the solution, the better the result you'll get, right? So in this case, we only have a couple sentences, short sentences at that, but it's telling us, right? Users can save changes in profile settings. Given a user is editing their profile settings, when they click the save button, then the changes should be saved successfully and the user should receive a confirmation message or show the updated information on the page. Again, general, and again, a suggestion, not necessarily something that you have to keep. But it does do two things. One, it cuts down on the amount of time it takes yourself or one of your team members to go into Zenhub to go ahead and create that ticket. But the second thing is, our theme of the day is standardization, right? Creating a system that allows everyone's work to look somewhat similar. And so while we have this skeleton, we can go ahead and add additional technical criteria to it, depending on the investigation that we might have performed or any other information we might have at our fingertips. But ultimately, at the end of the day, when we go ahead and we click on that create issue button, we've cut down the amount of time it's taken us to create that ticket, but we've also created a system that everyone within our organization or our team, depending on who's in Zenhub, can take advantage of to create a repeatable system that is standard throughout your organization. The other thing, the other thing that we can do within Zenhub is we can actually go ahead and we can attach any other relevant pieces of information. I'm sure, much like ourselves, you guys use a whole host of tools. Your tech stack is fairly large, and it's important to add as much information and context as we can to each one of those individual tickets. And so what we've done is we've gone ahead and we've created integrations for some of those incredibly common use cases. So in this case, we have embeds that we add to our epics, our individual tickets surrounding Miro, Figma, Loom, as well as Notion, which we use for documentation. You can see my colleague George there at the bottom. Loom videos have come in incredibly handy, particularly as we're an organization that is globally distributed. You can't always get a hold of someone when you need to. So finding an asynchronous way to transmit that information, being able to peg that to an individual ticket or an individual epic has been incredibly handy, and it's something we definitely recommend our users take advantage of. And that also ties in really well to our concept of integrations in general, right? When I was mentioning the ability to use a specific tools and being able to add the other tools within our tech stack to Zenhub itself, one of those critical pieces of infrastructure that we use here internally, and I think a lot of you might as well, is Slack itself. And so what we have is the ability to actually take one of those new tickets, like the one we've just created here, and to add any pertinent information to this ticket by using Slack. The way we do this is we copy the URL associated with that specific ticket. Once we've performed our integration, we can go ahead and paste that URL within the context of that channel. And after giving it just a sec, it will give us the ability to actually sync that issue into the thread. And what this does is when we are adding context or asking questions that's directly pertinent or relevant to a specific ticket that we might be working on, when we make that change in Slack, we can actually go back to that same ticket within Zenhub and see that that information has been added. The reason this is so important is there are so many critical conversations happening within a whole host of direct messaging platforms, Slack being one of the most common, that don't necessarily get added to the ticket. So again, retroactively when we're looking at it, or if we're passing a ticket by using automated workflows from one team to another, unless you were part of that initial conversation by being invited to that channel, a part of that, list of individuals that were being DM'd, we don't really know what's happening. But this way, by adding that integration between the two, we can immediately see any conversation or any context that might be necessary or pertinent in this case. But the other thing that it allows us to do is also to go ahead and, for example, move that ticket in between the different pipelines. And when I navigate back, let's go ahead and do this right here. And when we navigate back to Slack, doesn't seem to be firing right now. It might just take a second or two. I can find another example. It will let us know when it's moved between one pipeline to another pipeline. So this other ticket we can see has been moved immediately from in progress to failed testing. And it's sent that notification to everyone who would have been a part of that initial conversation. Again, just letting us know where we stand with a particular task. The other thing, though, that might be handy is not only can we take existing tickets and have conversations surrounding them, but if we are having a conversation and realize that maybe that's not necessarily related to a specific task, a specific piece of work, we can go ahead and we can actually spin up a new ticket from right here within Zenhub. If we hit /Zenhub_issue and hit enter, we will have this brand new modal that pops up. This modal will allow us the ability to select the workspace in question, the repo in question, and I'm going to give us a very creatively named ticket here called write something. And from there, we can go ahead, submit that ticket. And once again, it will give us the ability to add to that comment thread within that ticket itself. But additionally, will instantaneously be created on the Zenhub side of things. I just need to refresh that really quickly. I'm not sure which pipeline I created that in, but it will be reflected on the Zenhub side of things as well. And again, we can pass that work off, continue to communicate, and again create structure around all the conversations that we're having. Tie that right back to Zenhub and our project management solution. The last thing I'd like to say about bringing some sort of standardization to any organization is there is a reporting and a timeline standardization that Zenhub also really helps with. As a result of having such a tight GitHub integration and having the ability to tie those GitHub tickets to those PRs so intimately, changes that are being made will be made based off merges, PR merges, off changes that are happening within the code base itself. You don't necessarily have to wait for the individual developer, the individual project manager, product owner to move those tickets over time. There is a standardized approach as to when tickets are moved, and that approach is instantaneously. As soon as those changes have been made, those PRs have been tied to tickets, we can make sure that those are immediately shown off to anyone that might be interested. And that is effectively it for today. Short and sweet, give you a quick view into how we try to bring a little bit additional structure to Zenhub and the project management process of any organization. So now I'd like to turn things back over to you guys, see if you have any questions, queries, concerns that maybe I can address. All right, it seems like we have our first question here. How does Zenhub AI ensure work is categorized correctly and we can customize it to our own workflow? As I mentioned before, the way we do this is we have some historical context that we're taking into account. We've worked very hard to make sure that we're giving you the most pertinent information that we can. But every once in a while, it might hallucinate just a tad. And again, it is a suggestion. It's not necessary at all to take on those suggestions, but we find generally we're doing a great job. Additionally, we thrive on feedback here at Zenhub. If you guys spot any challenges in any way, shape, or form, please do not hesitate to tell us. The faster we hear about it, the faster we can improve it for you guys. We have another question. The Slack connection is amazing. Would it be possible to share a thread when you want instead of every message being posted as a comment? That is a great question. Let's go ahead and take a look. If we look at one of those Slack threads that we've created by actually dragging the GitHub issue into Slack, and let's say we want to have a brief conversation of Slack that gets piped into GitHub, but once that's done, we can actually go ahead and click on Stop Syncing. And at that point, that flow between Slack and Zenhub will cease to work, and it won't get piped into it as a comment. Instead, we can continue to just have that conversation on a day-to-day basis. We have another question. I think this has been an issue for a while. Can you delete Zenhub labels? At this point, if you want to delete a Zenhub label, you'll have to, I might be mistaken on this, but I'm fairly sure, send in an email to support@zenhub.com where someone on our team, on our backend team, can go ahead and actually delete that for you. That is a great idea, though. Maybe something to put in as a feature request. Make that a little bit easier and smoother for our users. And another question about Zenhub 2.0. This is a question about Zenhub 2.0 rather than today's content. Will the epics tab on the left rail be staying around, or is it going away? That is a question right on the bleeding edge. My immediate instinct is to say it is going away, due to the fact that the epics page on the left-hand side is once again built on that sort of legacy Zenhub only approach that we do have. Seeing as how the new epics that are based on, where are we here? Let's go to the timeline. The new epics are based on that sub-issue hierarchy that we do have. I do believe it will be going away. Are there chat integrations for Google Hangouts or Microsoft Teams similar to the Slack integration? Yeah, so for any of you that have ever taken a look at how Microsoft kind of builds things on the back end, it's always a bit of a challenge. That being said, it's one that we are up to, and we have built out a bit of an integration for one of our other products, not one of our core products, something that's kind of on the bleeding edge that we're working on the side right now, and that is something that hopefully we will be able to bring to market soon. On the Microsoft Teams front, I haven't heard much about the on the Hangouts side of things, but hopefully, if that's something that people have interest in, we would be able to go ahead and do that as well. And I think we had another question. How can Zenhub help with aligning work across multiple teams or departments? We have the ability to go ahead and pull out any piece of work in Zenhub across all the different workspaces that an individual has. So obviously, as long as the repo-based permission structure exists for multiple workspaces, we can go ahead and transfer that around as you see fit. But yeah, that's not an issue at all. And it seems like those are all the questions for now. I'm going to give it just a couple more minutes, make sure anyone that has a question they want answered gets their question answered. Two more questions. Okay, on timelines, is there a feature where we can put target start and end dates for each ticket? Similar on timelines, is there a feature where we can put target start and end dates for each ticket, similar to a roadmap? I believe that is a change that, if it hasn't already been adopted, will be coming shortly as a result of some of the structural changes that we've made. But please feel free to send me an email at not support, sorry. I'm just so used to saying that email. Send me an email at sci.mender@zenhub.com, and I can definitely get you a definitive answer for that. How do you move an epic from one workspace to another? Great question, and I think it's dependent on the type of epic. If you have had timelines switched on for yourself, and you are working with that hierarchical view, that the most recent type of epics that we're discussing, in that case, just adding the repository that epic is based in to the next workspace should make that visible to you. And if we are talking about our legacy epics in terms of those that are attached to the epics page as well as built out within the context of the roadmap, we have, if I open up this roadmap, for example, and go to that green plus sign at the very top, the ability to add epics from the organization. So epics built within other workspaces can also be pulled into this specific workspace. Any other questions? It seems like that's it for today. I want to say once again, thank you to everyone for showing up. I'm going to be hanging around for just a few minutes, make sure everyone who wants a question answered gets their question answered. But once again, we'll be doing this every 2 weeks, and I'm hoping to see a lot of familiar faces 2 weeks from now as well. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.